telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Baum Biggis. Nothing is more important than your health. There are so many diseases out there, and many have nonprofit organizations supporting efforts for treatment, cures, and overall information about how to live with a disease. One of the most difficult diseases to diagnose is lupus, a chronic and complex autoimmune disease. Lupus can affect any part of the body, but the most commonly impacted areas are joints, skin, your brain, lungs, and kidneys. Women tend to make up 9 out of 10 adults with the disease, and is the most commonly found in women who are African American, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American. It's a tough disease to live with because it ebbs and flows over time, impacting each person slightly differently. No one knows that better than our guest today, LaTonya Lipprand. A lupus survivor, LaTonya decided she wanted to help others living with the disease, and she's become a strong advocate through Marlene's Kaleidoscope. She joins us today to share her journey and how she's making a difference in the community. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. And also thank you for putting the spotlight, helping us put the spotlight on lupus.
Well, I was sharing with you before we started talking that I've worked with some organizations who are out there trying to help with lupus. It's such a tough disease. Share a little bit about your own personal journey and how this really became a cause célèbre for you.
I was diagnosed over 30 years ago. Matter of fact, 33. My son's 33 years old. When I was pregnant, they had me on high risk. They didn't know why, but my numbers just didn't look right. So I was actually considered a high risk pregnancy. After I had my son, everything just went haywire. Joints, breathing, just getting up out of bed was very, very difficult for me. Kept going back to the doctors. They kept telling me nothing's wrong with me. Oh, you just had a baby. You're probably going through some depression. Kept going. I had one doctor even tell me I was a hypochondriac. The best thing to do is check myself into a mental institution where they can help me with this. And when I tell people that, they think that's strange, but it happens more than you know, especially with people with lupus or any autoimmune that people don't understand or can't see. Went through, had my son, still having the issues, like I said, went to doctor. Finally found a doctor that said, okay, I believe you, something's wrong. And we stuck together, and she went to a seminar, and she called me and she says, hey, I think I know what's wrong with you, but we need to do some testing. She put me in the hospital. I think I was in hospital about a week. I know I was because I had told my friend and said, hey, if they don't come here and tell me something, we're breaking out. Bring me some clothes. But I noticed that I was feeling great, but I didn't know what they were giving me in the IV. They just kept saying they wanted me to stay hydrated and whatever. And she came in. She was with, it looks like maybe 100 doctors, but it was not, if I remember, so it was maybe 4. It's just the way they looked. Her face was not happy or content. It was just sad. So she sat down and she says, we know what's wrong with you. I'm like, great. And she says, you have lupus. I said, is that cancer? And the reason I asked her that, because I was going through cancer with my mom. I'm like, this would be something me and my mom can go through together and help each other out. And I remember her exact words. She said, to me, it's worse than cancer because there's no cure. I said, everything got a cure. Everything has a pill. She says, not this. So autoimmune doctor sat down and he started explaining what lupus was, which really went over my head because I still couldn't comprehend that I have something that you're telling me there's no cure. And I just had a baby. I kept saying no cure, no cure. And I'm like, that don't make sense. So after I got out of hospital, went down to depression, and finally me and her sat down and talked. And I was literally telling her, hey, I know he's talking about 3 years because I think everything's shutting down. Could you let me help me out to see my baby turn 5. Because I figure in my head, if he could see me at 5, he will remember me. So she's like, yes. At that time, I'd taken anywhere from morning times 10 pills, night 20. And I was okay to take it. I went from a size 6 to a size 14 within like 2 months because I'm taking all these medicine. So with that said, that's how I decided to live my life. So what I did was after he turned 5, I was still here. Okay, we got to get him to elementary, through high school, through college. And when he graduated from college, it was eye-opening to me because I felt like I didn't have anything else to live for. I'd done my duty. I seen my son do amazing things. And so I went through a depression. And then on top of that, my doctor said I couldn't work anymore. I personally have lupus of the lungs, the joints, and the skin. My lungs are the worst. They're better now with great doctors. But when I went on disability, I was only using 26% of my lungs.
Oh my goodness.
So, which I needed to be on, which I fought. And people don't understand. People that have lupus or a lot of autoimmune disease, when they go on a disability, it's not like, oh, I just want to go on disability. Most of them fight not to get on disability because just like for me, I was on disability and and I didn't have any reason to live. I'm like, oh, you tell me I can't, you not want me to do anything. So my job then was basically taking my brother back and forth to the VA. He was a veteran, and that was my outing to take him to the doctor. Had a great time. Everybody knew him. And one day we were sitting at his house, and he was like, "Why are you here? I don't have a doctor's appointment." I thought I didn't know where else to go, so I'm going to sit with you. And a friend of mine's called me and asked me some questions about lupus. And so when I hung up, he's like, "Is that what you do all day?" I said, "Pretty much." I said, "I got a feeling I'm the only person that has lupus." And he was like, "Oh," he said, "You need to do something with that." In the midst of that, I always did fundraisers for lupus, and I would give him my money to a national organization. And one of my donors were like, "Hey, where's this money going to?" And I told him, and I said, like, "Well, what do they do?" And I tell him, he's like, "Well, what do they do here in Kansas City?" He said, "Because now that I know what lupus is and I know more people have it, it seems like there's nothing here for you all." I said, "It's not." I said, "But raising money, doing the research, and doing all that is going to help." He said, "But I go back to you. I'm giving you money. Where's my money going to?" So I called the national organization. I said, "Hey, I have these questions. Where is the money going to?" They told me it's the walk. And I said, "What else?" They said the wall. "What else?" They're like, "Well, we don't feel like people in Kansas City is embracing lupus like they should." I'm like, "What?" I don't understand. And she kept talking, talking. So the more she talked, the madder I got. And I was like, okay. I said, "Well, I disagree." And I said, "You can see that because how much money I'm raising for you all." And then I was not a nonprofit. I was just raising money. Gave me something to do, a purpose. And she kept talking, and I got mad. And I said, "Well, I guess I have to show you." And I remember her exact words: "What, you're going to start your own nonprofit? You know it's hard." I don't care. I don't have nothing to do. So I was at my brother when I had this conversation. He was like, "See, I told you." So a call friend of mine and says, "Hey, I think I want to start a nonprofit. I don't know what I'm doing. What should I do?" He said, "That's all I've been wanting you to ask me for." So he helped me get all the paperwork done, and I got my nonprofit. And I thought what that meant was I would just keep raising money and give it somewhere. I'm fine. But it became a snowball to me. Then it made me more visible of seeing that the same thing was 30 years ago is still happening. And that made me mad. So then I said, well, what else can I do besides just fundraising? So I started getting to talking to people. What do you need? How do you feel about lupus here in Kansas City? And everybody's like, we get no help here. We have no resources. I was like, wow. And then I started talking to people. Well, what do you know about your disease? Oh, I have lupus. Do you know how it's affect you? Well, the doctor says this and this. I said, no, what does it do to you? People didn't know. And that is amazing because I know when I got diagnosed, I wanted to know as much as possible. And then, you realize everybody's not the same. So a doctor can't treat us all the same. And that's what's happening. Doctors are treating everybody with the same thing, especially in the inner city. I talk to people, well, have you talked to your doctors about different medications? No, my doctor said there's no other medication. It used to be that way. We're up to like 5 or 6 now. Medications are just for lupus, which is amazing. You don't have to be on steroids all the time.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, well, my doctor's never told me that. Then start talking to doctors, especially internal medicine or first tier, I call them doctors. A lot of them don't even understand what lupus is. They used to tell me maybe a semester at the most on autoimmune, especially lupus, because they felt like lupus was so rare. It can't be rare if it's 1.5 million in the United States. And I have a problem with that number.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's about, well, population has grown. It's about 7% of the world, of the United States have it. That's what you're telling me. But if you look at it and you say that, then why is no one's talking? And on top of that, it's more than that. So it's been 1.5 million people for the last 20 something years. We have grown in populations. It's more than that. That goes to the data. The data's not out there. How do we get the data right? This year, the Senate, they did give us a little bit more money than they normally do. I think it was 27 million to do more research, which is great. I just have an issue. You giving 39 billion to cancer. Can't you give us a little bit more of that? I went to a talk one time, and this one doctor told me, she was a rheumatologist. She said, if we can if we can find a cure for lupus, we can find a cure for anything. And that made me think, but if that's the case, why we can't get the research? And there's 2 folds to that. I'm being honest. One is the people that have lupus. We're not pushing for it. Lupus is such a intimate disease because most people that have lupus has been to more than 10 doctors just to find something wrong with them.
Right.
And then when they finally get a diagnosis, this is like, okay, I got this diagnosis. Now what do I do with it? They don't know because the society says they don't know. 60% of the people in the world don't even know what lupus is. And the ones that do, they just know the name. And most of them know the name because of when we had COVID, when they were said that people that had lupus wouldn't get COVID because we were on medication, which they found out that wasn't true. And so I sat back and started thinking, what is needed? Not as what LaTonya is needed. What is needed? So I did a focus group, and it came up true. We need resources. We need education. We feel our doctors don't understand us. And the doctor said, I did interview, okay, if you had a cancer patient or a lupus patient, which one would you prefer to have? Every one of them said the cancer patient, because we know how to deal with them. We don't know how to deal with lupus patient. Because you have a lupus, you have anywhere from 1 to 5 other autoimmunes. And then on top of that, anywhere from 1 to 7 other indirect disease like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart. So we're complex patients. We know that. But the doctors, that 15-minute visit you get really is actually 7 minutes when you break it down.
Right.
It's not enough. It's just not enough for us. So with me, I felt like, how do I help this? One is talk about it. It took 20 years for me to talk about my disease. So that's why people's like, oh, you need more people to start talking about it. I can ask, but if they don't want to, I'm not going to force them. because it is very intimate disease. If you cannot explain to yourself what your disease is, how do you expect to explain it to someone else?
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're trying to do. Let's talk to each other. Tell me what your doctor says. Have you talked to your doctor about your labs? What does that mean? How do you know you're in a flare up from your labs? How do you know if the medicine is not working for you? Those are the things we really need to embrace before we can go anywhere. In Kansas City, we're just not talking about it. And what we're trying to do is talk about it.
I was to
Talk
say,
about it.
what are you specifically with Marlene's Kaleidoscope doing? How are
One
you
of
raising the bar?
one of them is we're talking. So our
Uh-huh.
initiative is getting the conversation started. We feel if you start talking about the lupus as a conversation, not to talk to people, not that you're just sitting there talking to someone, but have a true conversation. That person that you had that conversation with is going to tell the next person. And it's going to tell the next person. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh my God, someone in my family member has lupus. Because people always say they don't know anyone that has lupus. I guarantee you know someone, either they just chose not to tell you about it. I call it a 6-degree separation. You know someone. So that's one thing, just talking about it. We
Mhm.
went from maybe when we first started talking to 300 people a year. Last year we had almost 2,000 people that we were in front of talking to. People come and say, my cousin had lupus, or my aunt passed, or the biggest one we have is my college roommate had it and passed away of it. We're
Mhm.
trying to change that stigma, or we could say, oh, LaTonya has it and she's doing well with it. You know, there's no cure, but there is a way that people can have a better quality of life. The other thing is we're partner with people and organizations that, like we did the Heart to Heart this year, because we know that the ages 15 to 45 is when people are diagnosed with lupus, they say. But more people under 15, 14 is getting diagnosed. And most of those women that are diagnosed when they pass away, they pass away in heart disease. And so what we tried to do this year is talk about it, because we also know heart disease is the number one disease to killer of women, but it's also the number one killer of people with lupus, of
Oh,
young
okay.
women. So we partner with them. Another thing that we do, we go to doctor's visits. Matter of fact, I was running home to get on the call again because I had to drop a lady off. And what we try to do is sometimes 4 ears are better than two, especially if you don't know your disease. I will say a lot of doctors don't like to see me coming, because you are not going to talk over someone's head or me. Excuse me, do you understand that? No, I don't. Can you break that down a little bit more for her? You can't let a patient come out of your office not knowing what's going on with their body. The whole thing is a doctor is supposed to be your partner. It's not supposed to be just someone signing off on a piece of paper, especially when you have a disease like this. Ask the questions. Now, I also say it's twofold. Number one, doctors talking overhead. Two, patients wanting you to fix everything and you can't. And I tell people, bring in your 2 to 3 top things that's bothering you. Another thing is we ask them to journal. We give journals out. And what does that mean? When you journal, if you don't have people to talk to, and that's a lot of things that people say, I don't have anyone to talk to, Tanya. No one understands it. I do feel, because I've done it, if you journal when you're feeling good, when you're feeling bad, or new symptoms, and then maybe a week later look back over that journal and see how far you came. Or when you go to your doctors and you open that journal up and say, hey, last Tuesday, and it also happened a couple of weeks ago before that, this and this is happening to me. Is that part of the medicine I'm on? Is that a new trigger or symptom? Can you help me? Because now it's written down that you can actually see. Because a lot of people that have lupus have what they call brain fog,
That's tough.
and it's pretty devastating. I will say that. My husband gets really mad at me because I'll be like, I, where'd it go? He was like, stop, just stop. I mean, like, because I do forget. Um, So it's a brain fog is a real thing. So what happened today, you go into your doctor next week, you might not remember it, but if you write it down, you can. Another thing is I want people to understand doctors are human too. So we kind of give a little education on that part. We have a shortage of doctors across the board, especially rheumatologists. It takes almost, with good insurance, up to 6 months to see a rheumatologist, especially if you're just new to it, getting into them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not them. It's just they're overwhelmed. They are. But you have to give them some grace. And it is called practicing medicine for a reason. Every doctor doesn't know everything. I think when you come into that aspect, you want, okay, I know my doctor don't know everything, but he should know a little bit. And then what happens is, I don't know if it's the way doctors talking or whatever. A lot of patients feel like, oh, they really don't know what's going on. Well, Miss Tanya, why did you have to tell me about this medication? Why didn't my doctor tell me? I can't answer that, but you also know they're seeing maybe 50 to 60 patients a day. And, unless you keep harping them or putting it in my chart, what I tell people, the best thing to use right now is your my chart or your portal that your doctor have, and put your information in there. And that also shows you if your doctor's reading your information, that they care. And so we just give them tidbits like that because we're not here to cure it. I wish I could. This year we've been blessed that a lot of people have known who we are. A lot of donations have came in. Not a lot, not enough for me to hire people, but okay. But
Because you run this all by yourself, right?
I'm a one. I do have a great board, but the day-to-day work is just me. Which Ashley, people are like, isn't that a lot for you? It keeps me going. It keeps me not wondering that I'm sick, because I am. We have these. Everybody look at you and go, "Oh God, you don't look sick." I don't know what look sick looks like, but I choose not. I am that person. People are like, "Oh, Tanya, you was in a hospital. You should have did a live or Instagram live while you was in a hospital." That's not me, because I want to be able to say, I have this disease. It's a young lady that is one of our clients that I love her to death. Love her to death. And she has this saying, it says, I have lupus, but lupus doesn't have me. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And that's truly how and I said, I never knew how to put it in words until you said it. So, people all like, we had our scholarship event where we raised money for our scholarship. And it's called, they took it for Hats, Horses, and Hope brunch for a derby party. Really, it was so much fun this year. It was so much fun. So we do that. We do our health fair. This will be our second one this year. We're just trying to bring lupus into a spotlight. We do know there's no cure, but guess what? You can help someone live a better quality of life. You can help by talking about it, where hopefully raise more money for research. This year, we're proud to say that we're looking for a research organization that we can give 5% to 10% of our money to. We were trying to find somewhere in Kansas City. We couldn't find anyone, so we had to go out. Now, I am unapologetic. And I say that again, unapologetic, Kansas City. I am a PK kid, which is a preacher kid. And my father used to always say, if you can't take care of home, you can't take care of nowhere. So I take care of Kansas City. We do get a lot of people calling us for assistance. But my first step is Kansas City. So people are like, oh, you need to go outside of Kansas City. You'll get more publicity. You get more of this. I can't, because I don't live there. I live in Kansas City, and I know what's going on in Kansas City. The same thing was happening 30 years ago. No education, no awareness, no advocacy was out there. So we're trying to bring that to the forefront. We do lunch and learns. This year we're a little late on our lunch and learns because I was sick. Like I said, I have lupus. I had a flare, and I'm starting from November into January. but we're up and running now. So we have what our lunch and learns is we'll go to a doctor's office, a school, community center. We'll come to your house if we have to spread the word about lupus and tell you what lupus is, what to look for, especially right now. We're trying to get into a lot of the high schools. So many people are getting diagnosed under the ages of 15. And
Wow.
I deal with lupus so much. I know they're struggling. So we have a program that we're going to put on that we're going to hope it's going to help them with that.
What's the best way for the public to engage with you, to access your resources, perhaps to volunteer?
Two ways. One, call me personally. People are laughing at me because I give my personal phone number out. Please do. That's 816-977-5845. You can also reach us on any social media, Marlene's Kaleidoscope, or for short, MK, the number 4, Lupus, sorry, MK, the number 4, lupus.org. In any platform, that's where we're at. We also have our website, which is MK, the number 4, lupus.org. Look us up. We are looking for, if you see our board members, talk to us. You need to see me out. A lot of people say, "Oh, I see you in person." A lot of people see me on the web, and they had never seen me. And this one guy told me yesterday, he says, "I didn't think you exist, really." Like, take that. He was like, "I seen you on your lives. I seen you on different podcasts." He said, "But I never seen you personally." I was like, I do live. So he was like, "Okay, but yeah, just reach out to us. We're always looking for volunteers. We're looking for board members, advisory board, and honestly, we're looking for lupus warriors. Come out your house. Come talk to me. It's not like we're going to put you on a blast or anything. Come talk to me and tell me what you need." Because again, it's so intimate. A lot of people, even especially men, I had a man yesterday, Saturday, come up to me at our derby party and says, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome." First thing in my head was, "Oh, your wife, your daughter has lupus." He says, "No, I do."
Mm.
And the first thing I said, "You want to talk about it?" He was like, "No." Because he says, I said, "Because you think it's a woman's disease." He says, "Yes." I said, "It does not discriminate. Just because when you open the web up, you talk to people, it says 90% is women, it does not discriminate. And it hits men harder, sometimes harder than women, because it hits the kidneys faster when it comes to men and their
Wow.
skin.
Well, I love what you're doing, that the passion, it came up absolutely from a very, very personal place, but we love that you've taken that and that became your charge to go help others deal with what's a very tough disease. But you've got that positive nature and say, we're going to march together. You're going to be like warriors. So it's Marlene's Kaleidoscope. Go check them out. It's mk4lupus.org.
Yes,
We'll
the
post
number
that
4.
so everybody will know. Thank you, LaTonya. And we just wish you the best with everything. You're going to
Thank you.
You're going to lift so many others up. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications. It's also a nonprofit. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. To be a guest on Casey Cares or underwriting opportunities, please visit our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. Don't forget, you can catch us Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 a.m. and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on Casey Cares.